Hiya everyone, I'm Jamie, and today I wanted to discuss the perks that the devs have said they are changing in some way. They released this image that I'm using here, and basically they've hinted at, they haven't actually said it outright, but these are the perks that they are changing. Whether they're buffing them, nerfing them, reworking them completely, these are the ones that they've said they are changing. And today I basically want to go through them one by one and say what I would do with these perks. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not a game developer. Honestly, not thought this through all that much. I just want to give my opinions on these perks and just how I would change them, basically. So don't expect, something mind-blowing that would, be perfect or anything. It's just my opinions, and I'm just going to go through and say how I would change these perks, essentially. It's probably going to be a long video, but hopefully it is enjoyable in some way, even if it just, it gives you a bad take to laugh at. So yeah, I'm going to start with the first one on the list for some reason, which is Tinkerer. Like, I don't understand it really, because if you look at all these perks, they're in alphabetical order. So I don't know why Tinkerer is the first one on the list. I'm assuming that Tinkerer is going to have a new name when they change it, because for some reason it's right at the top. I have no idea why. But basically what I would do this perk, because right now what it does is when a generator hits 70%, it gives you a loud noise notification. You get the undetectable status effect, and that lasts for 16 seconds. It basically gives you a chance to sneak up on a gen that is basically almost about to be completed. Now, this perk I find to be incredibly stressful. I don't like it at all. It mostly just lets you know that a gen is about to be completed. If you're a low mobility killer, you can't do anything about it. It just basically lets you know that a gen is about to be completed and get wrecked, basically. And for killers with high mobility, such as, Blight, Nurse, Spirit, it basically makes it so you can defend gens incredibly effectively. It's basically a hex perk that you can't get rid of. It's insanely strong if you're high mobility. What I would do with this is make it a purely information perk. So if you think of Legion's Fuming Mixtape, where you see the progress of every generator. I don't know if this would be ridiculous, but I would give Tinkerer that effect. So you can see the progress of all the generators. It still depends on what you do with it. It still depends on what you do with that information. I think that would be a fine change for Tinkerer, because you're still wasting a perk slot on, just knowing which is the next gen to be completed or whatever. I feel it would be better as just an information perk. It might be too strong still, but I don't know. I would like to see something like that, because there's already Fuming Mixtape, so it's not unheard of, and it's still a perk slot. I don't think it would be too strong, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but that's what I would want to do with it. Okay, moving on to my thing's not working. My thing's not working. Why is it not just letting me put it where I want it to? This is just great. Okay, there we go. Right, so next is a barbecue and chili. Right, this one I would basically all but delete. Kind of, not delete. I would make its blood point bonus, because I should say what it does. Basically, when after you hook a survivor, you see auras of all survivors that are for 4 seconds that are more than 40 meters from the hook, and you get a stackable bonus to blood points per unique survivor hooked. The unique survivor hook blood point bonus I would make base kit. I would just make it part of the game, because honestly, it would reduce the grind, and I feel like it should be a thing anyway. So that's what I would make base kit. I would probably actually just leave barbecue and chili with its original effect. Make the blood point bonus base kit and leave it with its original effect to see survivors more than 40 meters from the hook. Because honestly, it gives the killer a direction after they hook somebody to go and find another survivor. It progresses the game nicely. It prevents camping to a certain extent, because the killer has somewhere to go. I maybe reduce it to 30 meters or something, because it's now its only effect. But honestly, I think basically to make the Blood Point bonus base kit and leave the other effect as is, I think it's fine, really. I don't see much of an issue with that as it is, just that being its only effect, because, you know, I'd probably still use it, you know? It's just a nice information perk. Ultimately, what I'd want from perks is for them to just be perks to help you out, rather than things that, you know, dictate everything about the game, if that makes sense. I would ideally, I would want to be beaten in a game by another player's skill rather than the benefits they selected for their character before the game started, if you get me. It just feels like they should help you rather than play the game for you, if that makes sense. So like with the change that I made with Tinkerer, it would still be how you use that information. Like, do you go to a gen that is about to be completed, or do you stick on the chase that you're doing? You know, it's using the information that you have correctly, if you get me. I'm going to say that way too many times during this video, aren't I? But anyway, on to Borrowed Time. This is another one that I would just end up basically making base kit, sort of. Not to the extent that it is. Like, because right now, if you unhook a survivor from the hook and you have Borrowed Time, they get the endurance status effect for 12 seconds. So if they're hit by the killer, they go into deep wounds rather than going down. So it's an anti-tunnel perk. Now, I would make half of this base kit. So basically, anytime you unhook a survivor from the hook, they have a 6-second endurance status effect to ensure they can't be put right back down onto the floor. I think that should be enough time for either their teammates to take hits for them, or for them to make it to a safe area. That hooks are never in such a random place, really, that, you know, you couldn't get somewhere else in 6 seconds. So I think that should just be an effect of the game. I think that should just happen naturally. Now, as for Borrowed Time itself, I'm not sure what to do with it, really, because that's its only really effect. Because with Barbecue and Chili, you can make the Blood Point part base kit and, you know, just leave it with this other effect and it's still fine. But Borrowed Time only has one effect. If you make that base kit, what do you do with Borrowed Time itself? I would say maybe have it extend the endurance effect, maybe, or something like that. It's kind of a tricky one. I kind of struggled with what I would do with this perk. Maybe have it add 3 seconds to the endurance status effect. You know, it's going to happen anyway, but if you want to bring it, you can, and that kind of adds a little bit of, you know, hesitancy onto the killer. Like, if they want to wait out the endurance status effect after the unhook, do they wait the base kit 6 seconds, or do they wait the Borrowed Time 9 seconds? You know, it still adds a little bit of a hesitancy on the killer's part, I guess. And it just, like, adds that little bit of help onto the base kit, you know? Like what I'm going for. With perks being perks and not just you need them to play the game. If you want that extra, if you want that extra 3 seconds, bring Borrowed Time. There. I think that would be fair. Botany Knowledge, I'm honestly not really quite sure why it's on this list at all. I think it's fine. I think it's honestly fine the way it is. I don't really know what they hope to do with this perk. Like, the 33% bonus it gives to healing, as well as the efficiency of medkits, I think is honestly fine. I mean, they might tinker with the numbers a little bit. They might make medkits less efficient, make healing slower. They might make it faster. I honestly don't know what they hope to do with this perk, because I honestly think it's fine. I honestly think it's fine the way it is. And while this might be a little bit cheating, I'm going to leave Botany Knowledge exactly the way it is. I don't know what they really hope to change with this perk. It's fine, in my opinion. Okay, Calm Spirit. Now, this is a freaking weird perk, this one. This is This exists from like the old days of DBD. It basically exists to counter like one perk and like two killers, and there's not really any other purpose for it in the game. It lowers the odds of alerting nearby crows by 100% and suppresses the urge to scream from pain at all times. So basically it's designed to counter spies from the shadows, which basically no one uses, and it suppressing the urge to scream is basically just a counter to Doctor and, to an extent, Clown and some add-ons. It doesn't really do much of anything. I honestly don't know why this perk is still in the game. I guess that's why it's getting changed. But what would I do with it? This is another one that I've really struggled with, because honestly, what the hell do you do with this perk? Like, what the hell do you do with it? It's, yeah, I guess it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And honestly, I'm still struggling. I'm totally not stalling. I'm gonna come back to this one because I honestly don't know. Corrupt Intervention. Corrupt Intervention. I'm gonna come back to Calm Spirit, I promise. Corrupt Intervention. Make it base kit. Make it base kit. Just make it base kit. Honestly, without this perk as killer, you are basically guaranteed to lose 2 gens at the start of the game. Without this perk as killer, you will lose 2 gens at the start of the game. Unless you're like, you know, Nurse and you can get down super quickly, you're gonna lose 2 generators at the start of the game. Just make it base kit. It basically just finds the 3 generators that are furthest from you as killer and blocks them for 2 minutes. Honestly, maybe 2 minutes is a bit much. Maybe just make it a minute, or maybe just leave it as it is. Honestly, just make it base kit. And then Corrupt Intervention itself, the perk, maybe add it and maybe make it add another 20 seconds. Just so if survivors want to wait out that start of the game, they're not quite sure how long they have to wait. Just have it be a little bit of a bonus. Have it be a little bit of a bonus rather than what it is right now. Just have it a little bit of a bonus, and its normal effect is just base kit. Let's do that. Let's do that. Phobia. Okie dokie. Another one that's like, it's a bit of a weird one. Because right now it reduces the speed of healing by survivors in your terror radius by 50%. Now, survivors don't tend to really heal in your terror radius. And if you want to make this perk work, you tend to have to bring like Distressing or something like that to make your terror radius bigger. And even then, survivors can just run outside of your terror radius and heal there, essentially. So, I think what I would do with this perk is simply flip it. Just simply flip it is what I would do with it. Make it increase the healing speed of survivors outside of your terror radius by 50%. Because then survivors can either run outside of your terror radius to heal safely but slower, or they can go inside of your terror radius for faster healing but also danger. And that would give this perk, you know, amazing synergy with, you know, Nurse's Calling, because survivors would have to come close to you in order to heal at full speed. And that's when Nurse's Calling would pop, and you would be able to see their aura. So I think that, I don't think this perk needs much, apart from just flipping it. Maybe tinker with the numbers a little bit and make them a little bit lower, because honestly a 50% healing speed buff is a lot. And like I said, I want to make perks and not, you know, game winners. But I think try it out. See how it performs, and you know, if it overperforms or underperforms, tinker with the numbers. Then I think behavior have a tendency to just change something and then not touch it for like several years. You know, you can just test something for like a few weeks and then tinker with it. It's fine. But you know, I'd say flip it and then see how it acts. See how it performs. Before I move on, I think I'm just going to go a little bit back to Calm Spirit, because I don't want to go much further without talking about this book. I think keep the urge to scream suppressed, maybe. I think it's a tough one, this one. It really is a tough one. Because, like, if it was just an ordinary default perk, I'd say delete it. If it was a normal default perk, I'd say just delete it. But it's one of Jake's teachables, so you can't really just, annihilate it from the game. So maybe keep the urge to scream suppressed, and maybe make it so rather than lowering the odds of, alerting crows, make it so you see when the killer disturbs a crow. So you will see make it the equivalent of spies from the shadows. Rather than lowering the odds of alerting nearby crows, when a killer disturbs a crow, you see that same sound notification that you get as killer when you're running spies from the shadows. Yeah, just do that. Just make it so it's like Spies from the Shadows, but for Survivor. Okay, so what's this one? This is Dark Devotion. So as of right now, if you hit the Obsession with a basic attack, it causes them to emit a terror radius of 32 meters for the next 30 seconds. You're granted the undetectable status effect, and the Obsession hears your terror radius, I'm pretty sure. They hear it, because they have it. It basically just gives the Obsession your terror radius for a bit, so you can be sneaky, and, it confuses everybody a bit. It's basically just a really... I think this is actually an okay perk. I think it's fun. You hit the Obsession, you give me terror radius, you become sneaky. It's fun. It's fun. It's a fun perk. I don't know how strong it is, but honestly, I think this is okay. I think it's a fun gimmick, and I think it's honestly fine the way it is. You give the Obsession your terror radius, you go off being sneaky for 30 seconds. I honestly think this is fine. I don't see much wrong with this. Not sure why they're changing it. I'm guessing they want to make it stronger, but honestly, fine. Fine. Oh, I have a very weird take on perks. Just, humour me. I think perks should be perks. I always compare it to when you get, a job, and you get, a perk for your job. Like, they give you, a company car or something. Just a little bonus. Nothing that, does your job for you. You don't get, a magical pen that does all your work for you. You just get a perk. It's easier to get to work. That kind of thing. That might just be complete gibberish. Who knows? Dark Sense. Each time a generator is completed, the aura of the killer is revealed to you for 5 seconds. Once the last generator is completed, the aura of the killer is revealed to you for 10 seconds. It is Bitter Murmur in reverse. Honestly, I really don't know what to do with this perk. Maybe increase its aura reading. Rather than 5 seconds, make it 7. And once the last generator is completed, make it 12. Just add 2 seconds to each of them. Because honestly, I think this is fine. It gives you information on the killer, and that's basically all it does. It's just a solid aura reading perk, and I'd say up it to 7 seconds, purely because of the goddamn bubble. When a generator gets completed, sometimes that bubble can hide the aura for the entirety of the time, because if they're hiding behind the bubble, you can't see them. So I would extend it to 7 seconds purely because, then the bubble doesn't happen. If I was changing the game entirely, I'd get rid of the bubble, because the bubble is annoying, and I hate the bubble, and I wish the bubble would go away and never come back. So I have a vendetta against the bubble. We don't talk about my vendetta against the bubble, except we just did, and I hate the bubble, and I want it to go away. But yeah, I think Dark Sense is basically fine. Just up the numbers a little bit, and then I think it'll be fine. Right, everybody's favourite perk, Dead Hard, when I finally get my little icon thing to stick on it. So, I know this perk is rarely used, so I'm just going to say what it does real quickly, just, so people know, because I don't think anyone's ever heard of this perk. So, when you're injured, you tap the active ability button, which is E. For most people, it's M4 for me, because I don't like pressing the E key. You dash forward, and you avoid any damage during the dash. It causes the exhausted status effect for 40 seconds. So basically, what happens, the killer comes close to you, you hit that button, you're invulnerable for a little amount of time while you dash forward, and mostly it is used to gain invincibility while you get a little bit of extra distance to a pallet. Now, people say that this perk is fine. I don't know how they come to that conclusion, but because basically they say, oh, just wait it out, which is fine if you're in a dead zone, because, you know, you wait it out, they do it, and then you hit them. But people don't often use Dead Hard like that. What they'll mainly use it for is you're going around a loop, and they'll wait until they can get the maximum amount of loops out of that loop until you're just about to hit them. Then they'll Dead Hard to the pallet or the window. They will vault the pallet, or they will vault the window or drop the pallet, and then they will be safe for a little while. Like people say, oh, it only extends chases by like a second or two. It's like, no, it doesn't. You can get to a pallet and you can extend the chase by 20 seconds plus. It's insane. This perk is absolutely and completely insane. It's basically the best perk in the game. It's completely insane. It plays the game for you to a certain extent. And while I enjoy running this perk because, you know, I like it when games are easier, I don't think it's very good for the game. So I would absolutely gut this perk into the next dimension. I would just absolutely gut this perk. So what I would have it do, it would no longer be an exhaustion perk. It would have... I've debated. I want to make it a token perk. So you would have tokens for it. But I'm debating on how many tokens to give it. I'm thinking like 2 or 3. Maybe 2 or 3 tokens. And basically it would no longer dash forward. What it would do is it would give you invulnerability for a second. Basically, it would be solely used to dodge a killer's hit. And basically, that would be its only purpose. So, it would be like Old Metal of Man. When you used to activate Old Metal of Man, or when you activate Metal of Man now, actually. I forgot it still does this. But you take the hit, you ignore it. It does nothing. Like, it doesn't put you in deep wounds or anything like that. It just absorbs it. You glow white and it just absorbs the hit. So that's what New Dead Hard would do in my design. You press it, you activate invulnerability for about a second or 2. It takes one of the tokens that you have, and then it's gone. If the killer doesn't swing, the killer doesn't swing. It doesn't tell the killer that you've activated it, but it is active. So if the killer swings during that, little second, like that second or 2, you absorb the hit and you take no damage. I think that's how it should work. Then you'd have to be strategic on how you use it. You wouldn't be able to Dead Hard for distance, and that's how it would be in my view. That it would have to be used strategically. It couldn't be used as a cheap out for a just easy extending of a chase. And that's how I would do it. I'm torn on whether to give it 2 or 3 tokens. I think maybe 3, but yeah, I think that's fair. It makes it for dodging hits, which is apparently what it's supposed to be used for. It's not supposed to be used for gaining distance, but yeah, that's how I would do with it. DS, Decisive Strike. Constantly in discussion every time anybody talks about changing perks. But yeah, it's here again. Oh, it can never escape. Can it? Anyway, what it does is when being grabbed or picked up by the killer... Oh wait, no, I've missed a line. After being unhooked or unhooking yourself, Decisive Strike activates for the next 60 seconds. When being grabbed or picked up by the killer, succeed a skill check to automatically escape their grasp, stunning them for 5 seconds. Successfully stunning the killer will disable Decisive Strike for the remainder of the trial and result in you becoming the Obsession. And there's a little bit that you can't see because the box is too small for how much information there is on this perk. But while Decisive Strike is active, the following interactions will deactivate it: repairing a generator, healing yourself or other survivors, cleansing or blessing a totem, sabotaging a hook, or unhooking other survivors. So, Decisive Strike. What I would do with this perk is I would reduce the timer on it to 30 seconds, and I would also make it that it becomes deactivated when you open the exit gates, because that is currently not something that deactivates Decisive Strike, and I think it should. So, you know, if you run to an exit gate and start working on it, then Decisive Strike is deactivated. And I would also lower the timer to 30 seconds. Because ultimately, with making the effects of Borrowed Time base kit, this perk should become less needed. Because with Borrowed Time being base kit, you know, it will happen no matter what. Then I don't think this perk is as needed. I might be proven wrong, but I would lower the timer to 30 seconds, leave the stunning time as 5 seconds, and yeah, because like ultimately, I think this perk is sort of fine in the current state of the game. I think it's fine. I would just make it so that, you know, it deactivates on the exit gates, because ultimately I think it's fine. I just think it needs a little bit of tinkering to take it down to what I intend to get the rest of the perks down to, because ultimately I think, you know, perks should be perks, not game winners. So yeah, I think that's a fine one. I'm really confused by this one. I don't know why it's on the list. I think this is one of the fairest perks in the game, and I'm really not sure why it's here. But apparently they plan on changing Deja Vu for some reason, and I'm really not sure why. Unless, I don't know. But yeah, the auras of the 3 generators in closest proximity to each other are revealed to you for 60 seconds at the start of the trial, and each time a generator is completed. This is just honestly a solid perk. It's good for denying 3 gens from the killer. If you always focus on the 3 generators that Deja Vu shows you, you can basically make sure that the last 3 generators are ridiculously far apart, and, you know, really difficult for the killer to defend. If used strategically, this perk can be really, really strong. And, like, you know, in a good way, I think it's one of the fairest perks in the game. Ultimately, if I had to change it, I'd get rid of its time limit, just so you can always see the closest 3 generators to each other. Because one of the things that I've found is kind of off about this perk is that if you're being chased while the generator is completed and you finally get out of the chase when, you know, the 60 seconds have elapsed, you don't get to see those 3 generators again, you know, unless you're holding a map. But yeah, I think just get rid of the map part and make it so that you can always see the auras of the closest 3 generators. I don't know why perks like this have time limits or cooldowns, but yeah, I'm really confused as to why this is on the list. But yeah, I guess it's just underutilized because not many people know how good it is, I guess. And they're probably going to buff it because of that. But yeah, I'm not sure. I just get rid of its time limit. And now we move on to Distortion. So whenever the killer attempts to read your aura, Distortion activates and a token is consumed. Your aura will not be shown to the killer, and you will not leave scratch marks for the next 10 seconds. So basically, this is mostly an information perk, because its hiding aura ability is kind of naff. Because it would be okay, but it only activates 4 times. So basically, what it's used for is I'm 40 meters away from the killer, and a token just got consumed. The killer has barbecue. I healed within 20 meters of the killer, and I lost a token. The killer has Nurse's Calling. I vaulted a window and lost a token. The killer has I'm All Ears. It's basically just used to figure out the killer's perks more than it is to actually hide your aura. So what I would do with it is make it so it can do both. Make it so it is a good perk for finding out what perks the killers have, and also a good perk for hiding your aura. So I would remove the scratch mark part. The aura not being shown to the killer part, I would keep. The losing scratch marks part, I will just delete. Just forget about that one. And basically, I would make it so you earn tokens by being close to the killer. So if you're within 15 meters of the killer, then you will gain up to 3 tokens. Let's limit it back to 3, but you can gain tokens. So you start the trial with 1 token. If that token is immediately consumed, then the killer has Lethal Pursuer. Unless I change that. Unless I change Lethal Pursuer, because I know it's on the list. but basically, you start with 1 token, and if you can get inside the killer's terror radius, well, within 15 meters of the killer, you will gain tokens, and then they will be consumed whenever the killer tries to read your aura. I think that makes the perk pretty balanced, I think. Just you can gain tokens, and then you lose them, and you gain them. Make it like Stakeout, basically. And then I think it will be fair enough, because I don't see why this perk exists in its current state, only being able to activate 4 times, because, pardon me, because Boon Shadow Step exists, and that hides you completely. It hides, like, your aura, your scratch marks. I think the only thing it doesn't hide is pools of blood, and that can be used infinite amount of times. So I don't see why this perk has only 4 tokens. Just have it so you can regain tokens, and remove the scratch mark part. Just have it so it hides your aura, just to balance it out a bit. Okay, Eruption. I think this is an incredibly underrated perk. I like this perk a lot. I like Eruption in its current state a lot. So basically what it does is, after kicking a generator, its aura is highlighted in yellow. When you put a survivor into the dying state, every affected generator explodes and starts regressing, removing the highlighted aura. Applies an immediate 6% progression penalty, which, 6% regression. Pardon me. Okay, so basically how I would change this perk is, I do really like it. The only problem it is with it, it requires a lot of setup. Because if you want, a good amount of value from this perk, you have to go around kicking generators and getting them ready for when you put a survivor into the dying state. And if the survivor team is efficient, you can be in a position where you've kicked a load of gens, but, before you've got the down, because you've been busy kicking gens, they've done them all. So, you can't really get value from the perk because the game's over. So, what I would change about this perk is you don't have to kick generators for it to activate. So, when you put a survivor into the dying state, every generator that has any work on it explodes and starts regressing. It applies an immediate 3% progression penalty. It also has another effect that's not on the screen, that any survivor repairing a generator when it explodes will scream and suffer from the incapacitated stasis effect for several seconds. I don't know how many seconds that is. Oh, it's 16 seconds. Okay, there it is. I would also remove its cooldown, because I don't know why so many perks have cooldowns. The incapacitated status effect I would also remove. The scream can stay, but the incapacitated status effect I would remove. It's kind of weird, because I think this is the only way that incapacitated can ever be applied to anyone. I don't really know what they did with that status effect. I might be wrong, but I can't remember any other perk that activates this. But I would remove that. sadly. It just seems a bit too much. It just seems a bit too much that they can't work on a generator for 16 seconds. I feel like balances it out. Like, I'm taking away that you have to set it up, so I'll take away that too. So basically, when you put a survivor into the dying state, they all explode, take 3% regression, and yeah, that just happens every time you down somebody. It's like a map-wide jolt. That's what I'm calling it. Just a map-wide weakened jolt. Yeah, I think that's what I'd do with Eruption. Okay, what's this? Scourge, Hook, Gift of Pain. So, what does it do? You can tell I just haven't really thought some of these at all. I just wanted to talk about these perks. There's some that I want to talk about more than others, and this is clearly one that I have not put much thought into at all, but I'm sure I can figure it out. At the start of the trial, blah, 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 that's just basic Scourge Hook nonsense. Each time a survivor is unhooked from a Scourge Hook, the following status effects apply. The survivor suffers from hemorrhage and mangled status effects until healed. Upon being healed, the survivor suffers from a 9% action speed penalty to healing and repairing until they are injured again. There's so many words. So it's basically Sloppy Butcher whenever you get off a hook, and it also gives you a 9% action speed penalty to healing and repairing until you're injured again. So basically this perk wants you to stay injured. It wants you to stay injured. It's a perk designed to make survivors stay injured, essentially. So ultimately, I don't see much wrong with this perk. It gives survivors a choice. When they come off the hook, are they going to stay injured with hemorrhaged and mangled, or are they going to be healed and take the action speed penalty to healing and repairing? I think it's a good strategic choice whether they want to stay injured and, be in danger, or if they want to play it safe, heal, and take the action speed penalty. I honestly think this perk is fine. The only thing that I would do is I would also make the basement hooks Scourge hooks by default. So you would have the 4 random hooks placed around the map that would be Scourge hooks, and then the basement hooks would also be Scourge hooks. So you would have a total of 8 Scourge hooks. Because sometimes Scourge hooks just don't spawn on your side of the map. Like, they all spawn, because it's random, they all spawn on one side of the map, they don't spawn on the other side of the map, and it's a pain in the ass. So I would just have the basement hooks be Scourge hooks as well. And ultimately, I think Gift of Pain is just fine as it is. So that was a lot of time to say basically nothing. But yeah, Hope. I'm very confused with this one as well. I don't know why this one is on the list either. Because ultimately, I think this perk is just fine. I think it's fine. I don't know why this perk is on the list. But as soon as the extra gets powered, you gain a 7% haste status effect for 120 seconds. It just gives you a speed boost at the end of the game. And I think this is honestly fair. I think this is fine. I'm just going to leave Hope alone. So, some of these perks, I really don't know why they're on the list at all. I think this is fine. I think this is one of the perks that is just a perk, It's not crap, and it's not game-breaking. It's just fine. Right. That's 2 that I just basically haven't touched at all. Right, Iron Will. So, it lowers the volume of grunts of pain by 100%. So basically, while a survivor is injured, they are just silent. They don't make any noise. They're supposed to still make breathing sounds, but I'm under the impression that they don't. I haven't actually checked this in a while, but I know that was once the case where, it just made survivors make no noise at all. So, yeah, that is essentially what Iron Will does. Perks like this, that only have one effect, and that effect is very, very simple, are kind of hard to rework. It's very hard to find, the right balance of, how to change it to, keep the essence of what it is, but because it's such a strong perk but so simple, I'm talking myself in circles here. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to figure out what to do with it. But basically, I think I would make it so that it didn't do this all the time. It didn't lower your the grunts of pain that you make 100% of the time, all the time. I would make it so when you are hit by the killer, for the next minute, you make no grunts of pain. And after that, you would make grunts of pain as normal. So every time you go from the healthy state to the injured state, for the next 60 seconds, you do not make grunts of pain. So basically, you could use it in the chase where you get injured, and that's it. And then once you get healed, you can do it again. So I think that would make this perk sort of more fair in that you would you couldn't be able to just stay injured all game and use your lack of noise to mess with the killer the whole game. You would only be able to use it in the chase where you became injured in the first place. It might be a good tool to lose the killer. It might make that chase a little bit easier, but you couldn't just stick with it the whole game. If that 60 seconds elapses, the killer can then hit you again. I think it's just a simple change that would make Iron Will, a little bit weaker, but ultimately still a good perk to have. Another perk that I have no idea why is on this list. This is Jolt, the artist formerly known as Scourge. So, as it stands, when you put a survivor into the dying state with your basic attack, all generators within 32 meters of you instantly explode and start regressing. Applies an immediate 8% progression penalty and has a cooldown of 40 seconds. Remove its cooldown. Just remove its cooldown. Make it so it doesn't have a cooldown anymore. And that's it. It's basically very similar to Eruption. in my change, because I just made Eruption just blow up all the gens map wide. This blows up gens closer to you in 32 meters, but applies a much bigger penalty. So yeah, just remove its cooldown. Then you use Eruption if you want it to be map wide. You use Jolt if you want it to be within 32 meters of you. Whether you want the higher aggression or the lower aggression, they're basically very similar perks, but just based on which one you want. Yeah, I'm not really bothered about perks being similar. That's fine. The game has loads and loads and loads of perks. There's bound to be some that are a bit similar to each other. Okay, so Knockout. When you put a survivor into the dying state with your basic attack, their aura is not revealed to any survivor further away from them than 16 meters. For the next 15 seconds, the dying survivor suffers from a decreased field of view and the blindness status effect, crawl 50% slower, and is temporarily deafened. This does so much to do so little. There is so much text here for basically nothing to happen. Because if you think about it, like when somebody goes down with Knockout, you see them go, you hear that somebody's gone down, you see it in your little, UI at the side of the screen that they've gone down. You don't really know where that is because you can't see them. And the survivor on the ground, 15 seconds, they suffer from decreased field of view, blindness, and they're slower. It does nothing. They're on the ground. They're not doing anything. They're mostly just holding M1 to recover. They're not actually doing anything. They're not trying to do anything. Nothing is happening. And by the time they get put on the hook, you know where they are. So this perk does basically nothing. As it used to stand, I think what it did was it hid the aura from everybody of slugs. Now, it was a slugging perk. It when somebody was slugged, nobody could see their aura. Pardon me, I've still got the coronavirus. But, which is why I'm, just doing a talking video, apparently. I'm ill and I keep coughing and my throat hurts, but apparently, I decided to do, over an hour of talking for a YouTube video because I'm really smart. I just really wanted to talk about these perks, okay? But yeah. So yeah, Knockout. What I would have it do is when you hit a survivor, when you put them into the dying state, they can't crawl. That's it. I would really, really strip this perk back and just make it so they couldn't crawl. So it's a really simple perk. It doesn't hide their aura. It doesn't do anything like that. They just can't crawl. It wouldn't do very much. It wouldn't do very much. They just couldn't crawl. I kind of fell in love with the idea of this perk just knocking survivors out. I think, honestly, not every perk needs to be the same level of strength. I'm totally fine with some perks being weak. And honestly, just having this perk knock a survivor out so they can't crawl, I think, is fine. It's fine. It might be a completely waste of a perk. It might be a meme perk. But honestly, I think it's fine to have meme perks in the game. And I think this should be one of them. Because it's just knockout. It knocks the survivor out. They can't crawl. They can still recover. Don't get me wrong, they can still recover. Maybe make it so it does something else, like maybe they recover at a 50% reduced rate. So maybe they recover slower when they're on the ground, because they're knocked out. There, yeah, do that as well. Ultimately, I just fell in love with the idea that you just knock a fucking survivor out and they just can't move. And yeah, so yeah, make it so they recover a bit slower as well. It might turn it into a bit of a slugging perk, but ultimately, it's more than it does now, which is nothing. Right now it does nothing. This perk does nothing. So, I don't know, make it funny. Make it so it just fucking knocks them out. There. Let's do that. Lethal Pursuer. Right. This is another perk that I really don't know why it's here. It's just a good perk. It's just honestly a good perk. Like, it's just a solid, good perk. At the start of the trial, all survivors' auras are revealed to you for 9 seconds. It lets you know where they spawn, lets you get a chase started nice and quickly. And that's basically all it does. Like, on killers like Dredge, it can be really oppressive because, Dredge can just see you at the start of the game, pop out of a locker right next to you and be like, "Hi, we begin now." But ultimately, I think that's fine. I don't know why this perk is on the list. I don't know what they're thinking of doing with this perk, because it's fine. It's just a good perk at the start of the game. Okay, lightweight. I know why this perk's on the list, because it doesn't do anything. It does literally nothing. So scratch marks begin to fade 3 seconds sooner. That's nothing. That's nothing. It does nothing. So this is another perk that's like, I really don't know what to do with it though, because it's one of those like Iron Will that's just so simple. It's hard to change while keeping, the essence of what it is. So maybe just take this perk's effect, delete it, just delete lightweight altogether, and add this perk's effects to, what's it called? Self-aware? It used to be fixated. That Nancy perk that lets you see your own scratch marks. Add that to... Add lightweight to self-aware and get rid of lightweight. Because I don't know why this perk is a perk in its own. It doesn't do enough to warrant being a perk on its own. It's another perk's effects just slung into its own perk. It doesn't really do anything. It's an archaic perk from a long gone era, essentially. Okay, Lucky Break. Right, okay. Some people think that this perk is overpowered. Some people think that this perk is garbage. And I have never seen such a polarizing perk in my life. I've never known some people to think a perk's overpowered and garbage at exactly the same time. But basically what it does, whenever you're in the injured state, Lucky Break activates. Bleeding and scratch marks are suppressed for a maximum of 60 seconds, after which Lucky Break is disabled for the remainder of the trial. You pair this with Iron Will, especially in the way that I've made it, and it basically makes you invisible for 60 seconds. So you don't do bleeding, you don't do scratch marks, you don't do noise, you can basically just disappear. And ultimately, it might make people mad, but I think this perk is fine in the state that it is in. Because it only activates once a trial, ideally, unless you have like a super healing build dedicated to it to make it activate more times. But ultimately, I think it's fine. It can escape, you can get hit, you can disappear, you can make it so that chase is a win, and then it basically does nothing for the rest of the trial. It's a free escape for one perk. It's a free escape for one chase. And that's basically how it is. It can be really, really strong if used correctly, and it can be really, really weak if used badly. And I think that's why it's so polarizing, because, it's very hit or miss depending on what you do with it. And honestly, I think that's fine. So, moving on to Monstrous Shrine. Okay, this fucking perk. Okay. The basement hooks possess the following benefits. Accelerates sacrifice progression by 9%, increases self-hook difficulty by 15%, increases self-hook penalty by 9%. Okay, so this makes the basement hooks kill you faster, and makes it so self-unhooking, which is already, basically a death sentence, even more of a death sentence. It's no. This perk is just no. It basically it takes a couple of seconds off the sacrifice time when you hook somebody in the basement, and that's basically all it does. And it basically doesn't do anything else. It's a garbage perk in its current iteration. It does nothing. So basically, I would have this perk rather than be centered around the basement. All right, phone, calm down. I would make it add 2 extra Scourge hooks, and that's all I would have it do. It would be a perk to boost the effectiveness and map spread of Scourge hooks and nothing else. Because ultimately, I think there should be more perks like that, and I will go more into this on the next entry. But there are a ton of... Well, not a ton of, but there are some perks on Survivor that basically their only effect is to boost the effectiveness of other perks, or to boost the effectiveness of something that's not necessarily dedicated to the gameplay as such. It's hard to describe, but Ace's perks, essentially, are just surrounded on boosting other things. They're not to do with, their own strength. And I think there should be more perks like that on Killer. So basically, Monstrous Shrine would... if you have Scourge Hook, Gift of Pain, or Scourge Hook Pain Resonance, it would add 2 more Scourge Hooks in the map. So you could basically guarantee that you get to a Scourge Hook whenever you hook someone. And that would be Monstrous Shrine. Its name doesn't really make sense anymore, but it still has a hook in the picture. So, there we go. Simple as. Okay, everyone's other favourite perk. No one escapes death. And there's a reason I've left the hex part out of that, because that is entirely what I intend to do with it. Not entirely, but that is what I intend to do with it. It won't be a hex anymore in my iteration of NOED. So basically, once the exit gates are powered, if there's at least one dull totem, irrelevant in my version, but remaining in the environment, NOED activates and lights the totem. Increase your movement speed by 4%, and survivors are permanently exposed. Okay, so as I've hinted, first thing I do is take away the hex part. No one escapes death. And as I said in the previous entry with the Monstrous Shrine, I want there to be more perks that boost the effectiveness of other perks. So basically, in my version, NOED would boost the power of other endgame perks. So it wouldn't have any effect on its own. NOED would have no effect on its own. What it would do is it would boost the effectiveness of other endgame perks. So say Remember Me. Every time you hit the obsession, you get a stack, and it makes the exit gates take longer to open. No Ed would boost that by, say, 50%. So however many stacks you have by the end of the game, so say you have all 4 stacks, what is it, like 16 seconds extra to open the exit gate? No Ed would add another 8 seconds onto that, and it takes 24 or something like that. You get all 4 stacks of No Way Out. The exit gates are blocked for 60 seconds. No Ed makes it 90. What else is there? Bitter Murmur, I guess. So it shows you the aura of all survivors at the end of the game for 10 seconds, is it? No, it makes it 15. You know, it's just a boost for other endgame perks. So, you know, that's what it would do. A boost of 50% to all perks activated once the last gen is completed, or once the exit gates are open. You know, that kind of thing. I again, not a game designer. Wouldn't know how to code this. Wouldn't know how to code this with a gun to my head. But that's what I would want it to do. I would want No Ed to be a perk that buffs other endgame perks. And that's what I would do with it. Okay, so No One Left Behind. Right. This one is a weird one, because it's another one from fucking ages ago that really doesn't fit in the game anymore. But gain a 50% action speed bonus to unhooking and healing other survivors. The auras of survivors, all other survivors are revealed to you once at least one exit gate has been opened. So, basically that's what it does. You do things like unhooking and healing 50% faster, and all the survivors' auras are revealed to you once the exit gate has been opened. That's not actually as bad as I thought it was, is it? That's kind of okay. And you also get a 100% blood point bonus for actions in the altruism category. God, how does Ots do this? I'm talking for so long. How does he talk for like fucking 9 hours straight? I've done 57 minutes and I'm like dying over here. But yeah, I'm fine. I'm all good. Okay. So, I'm totally not stalling to give myself time to figure out what the hell to do with this perk. I think it's fine. Ultimately, I was going to like annihilate it and add it to a different perk, but no, yeah, I might do that actually. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll talk about this perk more when I get to the last entry in this list, but ultimately, I think I'm going to delete it and add its effects to a different perk. I think I'm going to do that again. Yeah. Right, Overzealous. This is fucking brand new. It came out like a week ago. But apparently they're already changing it. So basically what it does is you cleanse a totem and you get a repair speed bonus of 6%. And it deactivates when you lose a health state. So you have to go cleanse another totem. Ultimately, I thought this perk was pretty nice. I thought this perk was pretty good. I don't really know why it's on this list. I mean, like, people are theorizing that they're making some sort of sweeping change to gen speeds in general, and that's why this perk has, ended up on this list, slated for a change. But ultimately, I don't know what they're going to do with the base game, so I can't really suggest a change that would fit in the new Dead by Daylight that this perk would slot nicely into. So I'm just going to leave it as it is because, as the game stands, I think this perk is fine. You get a generator speed bonus when you cleanse a totem, and you lose that speed bonus when you lose a health state. I think that is a well-balanced perk. The speed boost that you get to healing isn't too much. It could be just used strategically to get a generator completed faster that you really need to get done, because ultimately the 16 seconds or whatever, or 8 seconds, or I can't remember how long it is, but the time you spend cleansing a totem would erase the speed bonus you get. So it's more of a strategic perk, which I like. So I think it's fine. But obviously I don't know what they're going to do with the base game, so I can't say really why that perk is even on the list. But fair enough. Off the record. So, Let me just read what this perk does. After being unhooked or unhooking yourself, off the record activates for the next 80 seconds. Your aura will not be shown to the killer if they attempt to read it, and when injured, grunts of pain are reduced by 100%. Okay, so, as this stands, people refer to this as knockoff Iron Will. So it's like a knockoff Iron Will effect when you get unhooked. But, you know, I've made Iron Will only activate for 60 seconds after you get hit, so this is now just... I've brought it down to this level, basically. I've brought Iron Will down to the level of off the record. And yeah, I think that's fine. I think off the record is now okay. So, like, I think off the record is a good level of a perk in this game. I think that's what's going to be the most contentious about how I go about changing these perks, because I'm bringing all perks down to a certain level. I'm not going to make every perk really good. I'm not going to make every perk really bad. I just want every perk to be around the same average strength. Not game breaking, not shit, just a little fun bonus you put on to change your gameplay slightly to keep it fresh. And maybe help you out a little bit. That's all I want. That's all I want. Okay, Overcharge. So, damaging a generator overcharges it. For the next survivor interacting with it will be faced with a difficult skill check. Failing the skill check results in an additional progression loss of 5%. Succeeding the skill check does not grant any bonus progression. Okay, so basically, for survivors that have been playing the game for, you know, a decent amount of time, hitting this overcharge skill check is not difficult. It's basically a noob stomper, which I don't think should be part of the game. So I'm going to take the skill check away completely, and damaging a generator overcharges it. For the next survivor interacting with it, the generator will lose a 5% progression and explode. I don't know if I want to make it explode. I think, you know that bug where you're working on a generator with a survivor and they kind of like flinch away from it like it's exploded, but it hasn't? I would make it do that. Maybe. I can't decide whether I want it to explode or not. Maybe it should. Maybe it should. I can't remember. I can't decide this. But basically, I'd get rid of the skill check. I would make it so it explodes or doesn't explode and loses 5% of its progression. I think I'll make it explode. Yeah, I think I'll make it explode. So it just overcharges it. It's like a trapped generator. So the next survivor that works on it explodes in their face, loses 5% of progress, and the killer knows where they are. There we go. No skill check. Okay, so Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. Okay, this is one of the ones that people fucking hate, isn't it? This is one of the most hated perks in the game at the moment. So, at the start of the trial, yeah, that's just Scourge Hook stuff. Each time a survivor is hooked on a Scourge Hook, the following effects apply. The generator with the most progression explodes, instantly losing 15% of its progress and starting to regress. Survivors repairing that generator will scream, revealing their location. Okay, so basically what I would do is I would reduce its loss of progression to 8%, getting it in line with Jolt. And I would make it so survivors do not scream, revealing their location. I would just make the generator with the most progress explode and lose 8%. That's what I'd do. That's what I'd do with it. Purely, I'm getting rid of the screaming, purely so that it doesn't synergize quite so well with Dead Man Switch. That is basically what I'm doing. Like, I know it's easily countered. By just letting go of the generator when somebody's about to be hooked. But yeah, for people that don't know that, I'm just going to get rid of it. I don't want perks to control how the game goes. I just want them to be bonuses and not control how the game goes. So, yeah, I'm going to reduce it to 8% and get rid of the screaming. That's what I'm going to do. I've buffed Scourge hooks in different ways by making the basement hook Scourge hooks and making Monstrous Shrine give you more Scourge hooks. So I'll do that to Pain Resonance, and I think it should be fine. Right. Bimp goes the Whoople. Pop goes the Weasel. So this is another one of the strongest perks in the game. So, after hooking a survivor, Pop goes the Weasel activates for the next 45 seconds. The next generator you damage instantly loses 25% progression. Regular generator aggression applies afterwards, and Pop goes the Weasel deactivates. Okay, so Pop goes the Weasel. It's one of the strongest perks in the game. I would go after its progression. It's not something they've ever done. They've always gone after the time it's affected. I'm going to go after its progression. I'm going to lower it to 12%. I'm gonna axe it in half. And that may make people very cross, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to axe it in half. So, the next generator you damage instantly loses 12% of its progression. And I would leave it as active for 45 seconds. So, the next generator you kick loses 12% of its progress. I'm not really sure. Like, I'm trying to like balance things in my head as I go. I think with the changes to Dead Hard, and the changes to Decisive Strike, I think this should be okay. Because you should be able to down survivors faster. Basically, I want to make it so Dead by Daylight is no longer a game where you have to play around its perks. I want it to be a game where you have to play against the people you're playing against, not the perks they have. So I want you to be able to, like, say, if the survivors can lead the killer on a long chase while their teammates do generators, then they're better than the killer and the killer loses. I don't want it to be, you know, the killer takes ages to down the survivors, but every time they get a survivor on a hook, Pain Resonance activates, Dead Man Switch activates, and they go and kick the gem with Pop. Like, none of that. No chasing a survivor and outgaming them purely so they can dead hard and extend the chase by another 20 seconds. None of that. Just either you're better than the other team or you're not. And there we go. Is basically what I want. So if people are mad at like how much I would gut Pop Goes the Weasel, that's why. Just thought I had to just go off on a bit of a tangent there. So I would lower it to 12% progression. Okay, Pharmacy. What should we do with Pharmacy? You unlock chests 80% faster, and unlocking your first chest guarantees an emergency medkit. If you don't know, an emergency medkit basically gives you one heal, but it is a fast heal. It's a very fast heal that it gives you. And it also reduces the audible range of chest unlocking noises by 8 meters. So the killer can't hear you opening a chest unless they're really close to you. This is another perk that I'm not really sure why is on this list. Like, I know it's not the strongest perk in the game, but I don't know why they've picked this one specifically to be in this list. They probably have an idea for it that I can't think of. But ultimately, I think unlocking chests 80% faster and getting a guaranteed heal in your first one is a good perk. I think it's good. Like, you find a chest, you get an emergency medkit, gives you a free heal. Bish bash bosh. Seems fine to me. Right, Hex Ruin. Hex Ruin. I do not believe that this one is in the list again. I swear, like, every time they talk about changing perks, this one is always in the list, no matter how many times they change it. To be fair, I think they've only changed it once, might be exaggerating. But all generators automatically regress at 200% the normal regression whenever they are not being repaired. and this persists as long as the related Hex Totem is standing. So if you break Hex Ruin is no longer in the game. My automatic my automatic response to any Hex perk is to take away its Hex perkness, because I fucking hate Hex perks. I don't like that there are perks that you could just get rid of, like, but I'm going to try and refrain from doing that and try and think up a different way to rework this perk, because it is a very strong perk. But ultimately, I don't really know, because like my immediate response to this perk would be to get rid of the Hex part and make it so it's 100% regression when the gens aren't being repaired. And that's just the perk. So, you know, you don't have to kick gens, so it saves you a few seconds. Oh, is it 100% the normal regression? So that's twice the speed of normal regression. Maybe that would be okay. I'm not sure about this one. Okay, right. Take away the Hex part. Hex part's gone. Hex part's gone. Hex part is gone. I can't fucking speak. The Hex part is gone. I know I said I wouldn't, but I can't not. I fucking hate Hex perks. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the Hex part. I'm going to make it so that all generators automatically regress at 50%. I'm not sure. 50%? No, 100% of the normal regression speed. So when you kick a gen and the gen starts regressing, that's what Hex Ruin will do. Well, that's what Ruin will do. It will just make gens regress as if you've kicked them, but you haven't. There we go. Hex Ruin. Well, Ruin. Moving on. Saboteur. Okay. So as it stands, while its survivor is being carried, the auras of all hooks within 56 meters of their pickup location are revealed to you. Unlocks the ability to sabotage hooks without needing a medkit. Sabotaging a hook without a toolbox takes 2.5 seconds, and the sabotage action has a cooldown of 60 seconds. I am removing its cooldown, because that cooldown is really annoying. And it just makes the perk unfun, because, you know, you can be in a situation where you unhook somebody and you want to heal them under the hook, but because this perk takes priority for some reason, you start sabotaging the hook, and this perk goes on cooldown for 60 seconds. It's so annoying. Just, you know, because it takes 2.5 seconds to sabotage, you have to sabotage in advance, giving the killer the chance to turn around and go to a different hook. You may not get the save, but it means they have to go to a different hook, and it takes, you know, some time. It's not quick enough that you can sabotage in the killer's hit cooldown, so you can't stand in front of the hook, take a hit, and then sabo with this perk. It's mostly just for buying a few seconds, and I think if you remove its cooldown, it will be fine. I think if you remove its cooldown, it will be fine. I think it only has a cooldown, so you can go ahead, so you can't just go ahead and just sabotage all the hooks on the map. But ultimately, you know, if you really want to sabotage all the hooks on the map, and just make it so that everyone has to be slugged, I mean, I guess that is possible with exponential and all those other perks, but maybe it should have a cooldown. No, remove its cooldown, but make it so hooks come back in 10 seconds, so you can't sabotage all the hooks on the map, because that's enough time for a survivor to wiggle off. It means the killer has to go somewhere else, but the hook comes back. Make it so it only sabotages the hook for 10 seconds. Yes, let's do that. Oh, it's my favourite perk in the game. I'm not even being sarcastic. I fucking love self-care. I love this perk so much. The ability to just heal yourself wherever and whenever is so good. It's just so good. I know it reduces personal healing speed by 50%, but ultimately, you know, boons, like, people say it's like, okay, I before I start going off on a rant, I'm going to say what self-care does. So it unlocks the self-care ability, allowing you to self-heal without the need of a medkit. Reduces personal healing speed by minus 50%. Decreases the depletion rate of medkits while self-healing by 20%. So it makes medkits more efficient, as does botany knowledge. Right, so base kit, like with self-care, with just self-care, it takes 32 seconds to heal yourself. That's with no sloppy butcher, that's just with, just healing yourself. Now, people say that is too long, that is just too long for a heal, and why would you do that when Circle of Healing is a perk that exists? Well, Circle of Healing only affects the 24 meters around the boon totem. It takes 16 seconds to set up a boon totem, might even take a bit longer than that now, can't remember, but then you have to heal yourself as well. So you have to find a totem, you have to boon it, and then you have to heal in it. That adds up to more time than 32 seconds. And if there already is a boon, you have to get to a certain part of the map and heal in it there. And, the killer might stop you on your way there. With self-care, you can just find a safe space near a pallet or something, and you can heal up right there and then. I think this is a good perk. I think it is ultimately a good trade-off. You have to spend a lot of time healing yourself, but, you can do it wherever, and a lot of the times being healed is a hell of a good thing, because the killer hits you, you get 150% speed bonus, and you can get to a safe part of the map. I think it's honestly fine. I think it's honestly fine the way it is. I'm not quite sure what they intend to do with it. I hope they don't change it too much, make it too complicated. Ultimately, the ability to heal yourself wherever and whenever, I think, is a good effect. And I think the time it takes is a good time. I think 32 seconds is fair for a self-heal. And yeah, I honestly think this perk is fine the way it is. And I may be biased, but I don't want to change it even a little bit. I want to leave it exactly the way it is. Okay, we're moving on. We're moving on to Soul Survivor. Okay, this perk is safely the worst survivor perk in the game. It is safely the worst survivor perk in the game. So each time a survivor other than yourself is killed or sacrificed, Soul Survivor gains 1 token up to a maximum of 3 tokens. Each token grants a stackable radius of 24 meters, within which the killer is unable to read your aura up to a maximum of 72 meters. This perk is garbage. It requires your entire team to die to get its maximum effect, and its maximum effect is rubbish. It just hides your aura from the killer to a maximum of 72 meters. And you only get the 72 meters once the game is over and everyone's dead. It's garbage. It is absolutely garbage. Okay, so with this perk, I would make it so it still activates when all your team is dead. But what it does instead is it gives you a plus 50% or maybe 100%, I'm not sure. It gives you a 100% bonus to generator repair and 100% bonus to exit gate opening speeds. So it doesn't hide your aura or some nonsense like that. It gives you a bonus to the only objectives you have left. So, you get the bonus to generator repair and the bonus to exit gate opening speed. It's basically, if you really want to just survive at the cost of your team, you can run this and you can run left behind so that you're basically guaranteed an escape if your team dies. Now, it's not the best. It's not the best. But I basically wanted to keep the essence of this perk as it is. I didn't want to change it too much because if you have a perk called Soul Survivor that is based on Laurie Strode and being the final girl, you can't really do too much with it other than just making it a more useful Soul Survivor. Because the worst part about it right now is that your whole team have to die for nothing. Ultimately, I would have it so that you do get a bonus. It's not a bonus you'd kill your entire team for, because, 100% generator repair speed and 100% exit gate opening speed, 50% opening exit gate speed, I'm changing it to 50%, is not worth your entire team dying. Ultimately, it's just a little bonus to help you get out if that happens. It's not something you should aspire to. Ultimately, it's just like a little meme perk that you put on, say, if you really need, to get an achievement where you have to escape as a certain survivor. Not an achievement, a challenge. If you have to escape as a certain survivor, you stick Soul Survivor on, and you're probably going to escape with that perk. Ultimately, you will have to still be stealthy as fuck, because they are making that change to the base game, where if you're the final survivor and you get downed by the killer, you will be instantly moried. So you're going to have to be still pretty stealthy, but I reckon it would be a nice boost to exit gate opening speed. Ultimately, there is Wake Up as well, which you could stack with it, but Wake Up activates no matter what, and this perk only activates if you're the sole survivor. It's a bit of a tricky one. Because I wanted to keep its essence while not, making it too garbage. But ultimately, it's a perk that activates when your team die. It's never going to be great. It's not something you want. But yeah, that's what I do with Soul Survivor. Spine Chill. Okay, Spine Chill. Okay, so this is one of the better perks in the game as well. You wouldn't think of it, right, reading its description, but it is actually one of the better perks in the game. So, whenever the killer is looking in your direction, when they are in 36 meters of you, Spine Chill activates. Increasing the trigger odds of skill checks by 10%, decreases the skill check success zone by 10%. Does it? Sure. It's like, wait, does it? Increases your action speeds in repairing, healing, saboing, unhooking, vaulting, cleansing, opening, and unlocking by 6%. So basically, it activates when the killer is looking at you, when they're in 32 meters, so it tells you when the killer is on their way to you, and it gives you action speed bonuses to basically everything by 6%. So, basically, this is a bit of a weird one, because it kind of triggers really passive gameplay. Because what it does is, because people, depending on your skill level, people use this perk very, very differently. So, if you're pretty new to the game, you use this perk to tell you when the killer is coming, and the moment this perk lights up, you're gone. You're in the boonies. You're on the other side of the fucking Narnia. You're out of here. People at a higher skill level tend to use this perk as part of the vault build, which you pair it with with fucking resilience, and when the killer is looking at you, when you're injured, you get a 15% bonus to vaulting speed and all that other stuff while the killer is looking at you. It's mainly vaulting speed. So that's mainly what Spine Chill was used for at a higher skill level. So basically, I would try to make this perk a bit more, a bit less brain dead, essentially. It's one of these perks that kind of plays the game for you. Not really, but like at a lower level, it can make bad habits. It can make bad habits. So basically, the first change I would make to it is that currently this perk still activates when the killer is undetectable. I would make it so it does not activate if the killer is undetectable. If the killer is a stealth killer, say a tier 1 Myers or a cloaked Ghostface, Spine Chill will not tell you they are coming. You will still have to look out and, actually be aware of your surroundings, and you won't just be able to use Spine Chill to, tell you when the killer is on their way. So that's the first change I'm gonna make. I'm gonna make it so that it still activates when the killer is undetectable. As for its bonuses, I would reduce them to 3%. I would reduce them to 3%. So I would make it so that it gives a little bit of a bonus to all those things, but 3%, and it activates and it doesn't activate when the killer is undetectable, and that's all I do to it. Just nerf it. Keep it as it is, but just nerf it, I think. And I would maybe reduce its... thinking about it, I'd actually reduce its sphere of activation as well, because there's a major problem with it where the survivor knows you're coming before you even know they're there, and the main culprit of this is it activates within 36 meters, and the killer's terror radius is 32 meters. So the killer can barely be on their way there, and the survivor is already running away. So I'd reduce it to 24 meters. I'd reduce Spine Chill to 24 meters. So, they hear your terror radius before their Spine Chill goes off. I think that is a good change to Spine Chill. I think that's fine now. I think it's just a little bit of a bonus, rather than, playing the game for you. Right. Tenacity. I don't know why this perk is on the list. I think it's fine. Your ferocious tenacity in dire situations allows you to crawl 50% faster and also recover at the same time. I think this is fine. I think crawling 50% faster and recovering at the same time is a fine bonus. I think this is fine. I'm not gonna touch tenacity. Right, Thanatophobia. So this is really weirdly positioned compared to the rest of the information. Oh shit, I've opened a thing. It's really weirdly positioned. Okay. So each injured, dying, or hooked survivor incurs a stackable bonus of it's 5%. Penalties to survivors repairing, saboing, cleansing, action speeds up to a maximum of 20%. I don't know why this is so weirdly worded up there. But yeah, so it's basically a perk designed to get people for you to get people injured, get everybody injured, and then they do everything slower. So I think I'm going to keep it the way it is, but just lower the numbers back down to 4% where they originally were. So it can only get to a maximum of 16%. And I think that's all I'd do with it. And leave it so it still doesn't slow down healing speed. Because what they originally did with it when they changed it recently, well, not recently, it was like a year ago now or something, but they made it so that it was 5% per injured survivor, but they removed its ability to reduce healing speeds, because it used to reduce healing speeds as well. But they made it so it's more of a, you stay injured and be unsafe and take the penalty, or you heal up, reduce the penalty, and, be safe. Which I think is fine. I don't think they needed to make it... I don't think they needed to increase the percentage. I think it's fine at 4%, and it doesn't affect healing. So yeah, I think that's fine the way it is. Just put the numbers back where they were. And we're going to live forever. I was going to talk about another perk when it comes to this, wasn't I? I think it was not left behind. What am I talking about? The one, this one. Where's my cursor? This one. I can't remember what it's called, but this one, this one right here. I said I was going to do something with it when I got to the last entry in the list. But yeah, when healing a dying survivor, your healing speed is increased by 100%. Performing any of the following actions has We're Gonna Live Forever gain 1 token. Performing a safe unhook, taking a protection hit, stunning or blinding the killer to rescue a carried survivor. Each token grants you a stackable 25% bonus to all blood point gains, up to a maximum of 100%. And the blood points are only awarded post-trial, meaning they, at 100% at, all stacks, they double the blood points you got in the trial. make the blood point section of this perk base kit. So if you do 4 of any of those actions, performing a safe unhook, taking a protection hit, stunning or blinding the killer to rescue a survivor, you get a stack, and it doubles your blood points at the end of the game with 4 stacks. Make that part base kit. When healing a dying survivor, your healing speed is increased by 100%. Keep that as the effects of We're Going to Live Forever, and add the effects of whatever the fuck that perk is called, this one, this other one here that I can't remember the name of. Add that effect to this one. So when endgame starts, you get increased healing and unhooking, but just add them to this one. There we go. That's what I do. That's what I do with We're Gonna Live Forever. Just add. The hell is that perk called? I'm like completely blanking on what the fuck that perk is called. I feel like it starts with an L, but maybe I'm just like losing my fucking mind. Which one is it after? It's after Noed. Let me find it. I can find it. No One Left Behind. Yeah, that one. Add it to We're Gonna Live Forever. Just take these effects, not that one. Take these effects right here, these ones, and add them. Just do that. And add them to We're Gonna Live Forever. And then delete No One Left Behind. I think that's fine. I think that'd be fair. And just make the blood point thing base kit like I did with barbecue and chili. And I think that'd be fine. So yeah, those are how I would change the perks that they said they're changing. So those are how I would alter those perks. So yeah, this was a very rambly video. It was not planned, as you can tell. It was just me rambling about how I would change these perks. I might have irreparably broken the game. Like if I was a dev, I might have irreparably broken the game with some of these changes. But as I've said a million times during this video, I would just want to make it so perks are perks rather than, the entirety of how you play the game. So, I would want to, as a survivor, I would want to go against, the artist and not go against Pain Resonance Deadman Switch. I would like to go against a team of survivors using their skill against mine. I would not like to go against 4 Dead Hard, Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, Iron Will. That at that point you're not going against the survivors. You're going against these 4. You're not going against the survivors. You're going against what these 4 perks can do to you. But yeah, so that is the basic. The basic premise of the changes I would make to these perks, to drag them all to an average level so they don't dictate the game anymore. They just, give you a nice little bonus from time to time. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this incredibly rambly video. This is the first time I've ever done something quite this long or quite this rambly. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to go rest my voice for the rest of time because talking this long, how the hell does Ots make fucking 9+ hour videos of constant talking? This was, he probably doesn't do it when he has COVID, but much love everybody. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoy my streams at 4 PM BST every single weekday, provided that it's not like yesterday when my fiance just found me sleeping on the sofa at 3:45 and cancelled my stream for me because she couldn't wake me up because I was just out for the count. But yeah, I hope you enjoy my streams at 4 PM BST every single weekday. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. I love you very, very much if you made it all the way to the end of this video, because fucking hell. Much love. See you in the next one. Bye bye.